AITA for refusing to host my brother's bachelor party after he treated my fiancé disrespectfully. I, 29F, have been with my fiancé, Liam, 31M, for 4 years. We have a good relationship, and we're planning to get married next summer. My brother, Ethan, 27M, is someone I've always been close to, but he can be immature and sometimes inconsiderate. He's also been extremely excited about the wedding, and I wanted to support him while still maintaining boundaries. A few weeks ago, Ethan asked me to help plan his bachelor party. He had a small group of friends in mind, and he wanted it to be a weekend trip to a nearby city. Initially, I was happy to help coordinate logistics, book accommodations, and make sure everyone could attend. I've helped my friends and family with events before, and it's not something I normally mind. I wanted the party to be fun for him while making sure it was safe and well organized. The issue started when I mentioned that Liam would be coming with me to help coordinate a few things and be part of the planning process. Ethan immediately objected, saying that he didn't want Liam there because he doesn't know how to party and he'll ruin the vibe. I tried to explain that Liam isn't the type to cause problems and that I wanted him to be included because this is my family too. Ethan got annoyed and said, "I don't want your fiancé controlling my party. It's my bachelor weekend, not yours." I told him that Liam wouldn't be controlling, just helping with logistics, but he refused to listen. I decided to drop it for a while, thinking he'd calm down, but then things escalated. During a family dinner, Ethan started making snide remarks about Liam. He said things like, "I don't know why she's even bringing him, he probably won't be fun, and maybe I should plan this without her, so we can actually enjoy it." I tried to stay calm, but I could feel Liam getting uncomfortable. He asked if we could leave, and I agreed. Later, Ethan texted me saying that if Liam came, he wouldn't attend the party at all. I tried to reason with him privately, saying that excluding Liam felt disrespectful and that it was important to me for him to be included as part of our family. Ethan responded that I was overreacting and that I needed to respect his wishes for his own celebration. I offered a compromise. Liam could help with planning, but not attend the party itself. Ethan refused and said that would be awkward and that he wanted no involvement from Liam at all. After thinking it over, I realized that planning and hosting the party under these circumstances would be stressful, uncomfortable, and likely confrontational. I decided to step back and told Ethan that I would not be helping organize or host the bachelor party. I explained that it was a personal boundary and that I didn't want to be involved in something that required me to choose between my fiancé and my brother. Ethan's response was extremely negative. He accused me of being selfish, controlling, and ruining his bachelor party. He told our parents that I was refusing to help out of spite. My parents got involved and called me, saying that I should put family first and that it was just a bachelor party, not a big deal. They said that Ethan was upset and that I needed to support him. I explained that I had offered to compromise and that my main concern was that Liam be treated with respect and included in the planning process. I also explained that hosting the party would put me in a position to mediate between Liam and Ethan constantly, which I wasn't willing to do. My parents disagreed and said that I was overthinking it and being dramatic. Friends I've spoken to are split. Some say I'm justified in setting boundaries and refusing to participate in a situation where my fiancé is being treated poorly. Others say I should just help my brother because it's his celebration and that I'm making a bigger deal out of it than necessary. I feel conflicted because I do want Ethan to have a memorable bachelor party, but I also don't want to compromise my relationship with Liam or put him in a situation where he might be disrespected. Since I refuse to host, Ethan has started sending passive-aggressive texts, tagging me in social media posts about other bachelor parties, and talking to other family members about how I refuse to help him and don't care about family. Liam is supportive, but I can see he's also stressed about the tension this has caused. I'm trying to navigate this situation without escalating further, but I also feel strongly that my boundaries are valid and that being forced into a party under these circumstances would be emotionally draining and unfair. I've considered letting someone else in the family handle the party, but they've said they aren't comfortable taking over the responsibility. I also worry that if I give in now, Ethan will expect me to prioritize him over Liam in future events. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to host my brother's bachelor party after he treated my fiancé disrespectfully and insisted he not be included. Character count, 6,347. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow and motivates me to keep creating more great content. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss a new upload. Thanks so much for your support. AITA for refusing to let my brother bring his fiancée to my wedding after she insulted my family in the past. I, 29F, am currently planning my wedding, which is scheduled for next summer. My fiancée, 32M, and I have been together for 6 years, and we've been planning a wedding that reflects both of our families and the life we want to build together. I'm usually very laid back and inclusive, but something has happened with my brother, 27M, that I'm struggling to navigate, and I want to know if I'm overreacting. A few years ago, my brother started dating someone. Let's call her Lila. Early on, Lila made a series of remarks that were incredibly disrespectful toward my family. She mocked my parents' lifestyle, my grandmother's health issues, and even made a snide comment about my mental health struggles in passing. At the time, I tried to brush it off because I wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt, and my brother was genuinely happy with her. But the comments didn't stop. They just became more frequent, and they were always under the guise of jokes. She also refused to apologize when I directly confronted her, instead framing it as me being too sensitive. Fast forward to now, my brother and Lila got engaged last year. I tried to stay civil because I didn't want to create family drama. However, when my fiancé and I got engaged, Lila texted me saying, "Wow, I guess brother finally found someone who could tolerate him. Good luck with that." It wasn't a huge deal at the time, but it felt unnecessary and hurtful. I told my brother about it, and he laughed it off, saying I was overthinking and that she wasn't serious. When we began planning the wedding guest list, it became clear that inviting Lila would be complicated. My parents, who are very close to me, would feel uncomfortable having her there. Several aunts and uncles have already asked if she would be attending, and I've heard from multiple family members that they don't want to deal with her sarcasm or the potential insults she might throw. I discussed my concerns with my fiancé, and we both agreed that our wedding should be a safe, joyful space for everyone, not a platform for old grudges or passive-aggressive comments. So, I told my brother that, unfortunately, due to the history of disrespect and the effect it would have on my family, Lila would not be invited to the wedding. My brother exploded. He accused me of being controlling, said I was trying to ruin their relationship, and claimed I was picking sides unnecessarily. He also said that excluding her from my wedding is humiliating for him, and that it shows I don't respect his choices. I tried to explain that I am not trying to attack their relationship. I am simply prioritizing my family's comfort and mental health. I also mentioned that I would love to see him there without her, and that if he couldn't come alone, that would be his decision. He called me selfish, and my parents have expressed support for my decision, but are worried that this will create a permanent rift between him and the family. My friends are split. Some say I'm entirely justified, while others say that weddings are about compromise and that I should make space for Lila to avoid conflict. I genuinely don't want conflict, but I also don't want to invite someone who has been repeatedly hurtful toward people I love, including me. The situation has gotten worse over the past week. My brother has started messaging me constantly, alternating between begging me to invite her and shaming me for my decision. He has also started posting on social media about how family is being torn apart over a wedding, which is stressing on my parents and fiancé. I feel like inviting her would only validate her behavior and potentially open the door for her to insult someone during what is supposed to be the happiest day of my life. I know that refusing someone a wedding invitation is a big deal and can cause drama, but I don't feel comfortable compromising my family's mental well-being. I also think it's unfair to say I'm being controlling when it's my wedding and my choice who attends. I'm torn because I love my brother and want him there, but I'm terrified of the emotional fallout if Lila is allowed into the space. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my brother bring his fiancée to my wedding after she repeatedly insulted my family and me. I feel like I'm being protective of my loved ones, but I also feel guilty for possibly causing a family feud. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she accused me of ruining her day. This is going to be long, so buckle up. My sister, 29F, has always been the golden child in our family. I, 26F, am the middle child, and growing up, my parents seem to put all their attention on her. I've always tried to be supportive, but it's been exhausting at times. For context, our younger brother, 23M, is pretty chill and mostly stays out of the drama. Fast forward to last year, my sister got engaged. I was genuinely happy for her, and I tried to help wherever I could. I offered to help with DIY projects for the wedding, ran errands, and even gave her a hand picking out some decor items. I also agreed to be her maid of honor because, despite our history, I didn't want her to feel unsupported. As the planning continued, I started noticing some concerning patterns. She was extremely controlling about everything: the flowers, the seating chart, even the font on the invitations. I tried to stay diplomatic and just follow instructions, but I noticed she was increasingly tense and sometimes snapped at me or other family members for minor things. The first real conflict came about 2 months before the wedding. My sister asked me to coordinate her bridal shower. I spent weeks organizing it, contacting vendors, planning activities, and trying to make it a memorable event. I also wanted to save her some money, so I suggested a few cost-effective alternatives that looked fancy but wouldn't break the bank. She completely flipped out. According to her, I was cheapening her special day and undermining her vision. I tried to explain that I just wanted to help and stay within budget, but she didn't want to hear it. Eventually, I ended up hosting the shower mostly alone with minimal input from her. Then came the bridesmaid dresses. I suggested a few options I thought she'd like, including one that was very similar to the wedding theme, but at a lower price. She told me I was being impossible and making everyone uncomfortable. I ended up buying a dress she picked at full price because I didn't want more drama. The final straw happened about a week before the wedding. She asked me to help set up the reception venue the day before. I agreed, thinking it would be fine. When I arrived, she immediately started yelling at me for placing tables wrong and told me the flowers were all wrong colors, even though they matched her previous specifications. I was calm at first, trying to fix the problems, but then she accused me of deliberately trying to sabotage her wedding. I couldn't believe it. I was exhausted, stressed, and hurt. After that, I tried to have a calm conversation. I said, "Look, I want your wedding to be amazing. I've been helping, but I feel like you're blaming me for everything, and it's really upsetting." She responded by screaming at me in front of my parents and friends, saying I was selfish and trying to ruin the happiest day of her life. I felt humiliated. The next morning, I called my mom and told her I couldn't attend the wedding. I explained that I didn't want to be around the hostility and that being blamed for everything was emotionally damaging. My mom tried to reason with me, but ultimately supported my decision. My sister and fiancé found out I wasn't attending and went ballistic. She sent me a 10-page text accusing me of being a terrible sister, saying I chose to hurt her on her wedding day, and that our parents were disappointed in me. My parents said they were sad I wasn't attending, but understood. My younger brother was the only family member who outright supported me, saying he's seen the way she treats me for years. Here's the part I'm struggling with. A few mutual friends of ours have reached out and said I might be overreacting. They say that weddings are stressful and that maybe I should have just gritted my teeth and attended to avoid drama. I understand that weddings are emotional, but I can't ignore how my sister treated me, yelling, blaming, and accusing me of sabotage over things I didn't even do. Since then, I've gotten a lot of mixed reactions online and offline. Some people say I did the right thing by prioritizing my mental health, while others say I should have swallowed my pride and gone. My sister has blocked me on social media, and my parents are walking on eggshells around both of us. I'm left wondering if I really am the bad person here. I did try to help, I did try to communicate, and I did everything I could to support her. But being blamed and publicly humiliated for things that were out of my control feels extreme. I can't imagine attending a wedding where I'm not wanted and am treated as a villain. So, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she accused me of trying to ruin her day. Character count, 6,232 if you want. I can also craft a slightly longer version hitting closer to 7,000 characters with more detailed backstory and more side events leading up to the wedding for extra realism. This one already captures the classic viral Reddit drama style. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to let my friend's kids stay in my house after she said I owe her because I didn't invite her to my wedding. I, 32F, have been friends with Kara, 33F, since college. We were very close for years, but in the past few years, our friendship has become strained. Kara is a single mom with 2 kids, ages 6 and 8, and she often relies on friend for help with childcare and logistics because she works full-time. I've always tried to help when I can, but I also have a family, a demanding job, and clear boundaries about my home. Earlier this year, I got married to my partner, Derek, 34M. Planning the wedding was stressful, and we kept it small, about 70 guests, mostly family and a few close friends who I felt were actively involved in my life. I decided not to invite Kara because, frankly, she hadn't been particularly present in my life recently, and I wanted to focus on family and friends who I felt truly supported me during planning. I did tell her about the wedding in advance, but I didn't issue an invitation. She seemed upset at the time, but I thought she understood. 2 months after the wedding, Kara contacted me out of the blue. She told me she needed a place for her kids to stay for a weekend because her work schedule was hectic and she had an urgent business trip. She assumed that since we're friends, I would let her kids stay in my house. I explained politely that we weren't in a position to host kids at our home because of space, schedules, and our own children's routines. She immediately got defensive and said, "I can't believe you won't help me. After all the times I've been there for you, you're refusing your friend? You should at least make an exception." I was confused and asked what she meant by all the times you've been there for me, and she said that I owe her for not inviting her to my wedding. She explained that by excluding her, I had hurt her feelings and damaged our friendship, so letting her kids stay over would somehow make up for it. I tried to calmly tell her that an invitation to my wedding is not a debt, and that I didn't invite her because of my personal reasons, not to punish her. I also reminded her that hosting her kids is a completely separate issue from my wedding and involve a lot of logistics and responsibility on our part. She became increasingly upset and said I was selfish, cold, and ungrateful, and that I only think about myself. She accused me of prioritizing my own comfort over friendship and said that I clearly didn't value our relationship anymore. I explained that I could help in other ways, like watching the kids for a few hours at a different location, helping her find a short-term babysitter, or even contributing to a hotel stay, but that my house was off-limits for an entire weekend. She rejected all of these alternatives and continued to insist that I owed her this. My partner and I discussed it, and we both agreed that we would not be hosting her kids. We feel it's unfair for her to claim we owe her anything over a personal decision like a wedding guest list. Plus, hosting kids overnight is a big responsibility, and we aren't comfortable doing it when she frames it as a debt rather than a favor. After we told her no, she started sending guilt-tripping messages and posting vague, passive-aggressive comments on social media about friends not helping her. She has also reached out to mutual friends, framing the situation as me being unkind and selfish. A few friends have privately said that maybe we should just let it slide and host the kids for one weekend to maintain the friendship. Others have said we are completely justified in setting boundaries and that Kara is manipulating the situation. I feel frustrated because I've supported Kara in the past in multiple ways, helping her move, giving her rides when she had no car, babysitting occasionally, and lending small amounts of money in emergencies. But this feels different because she's framing her request as something I owe her rather than a genuine need. I'm also frustrated because I've tried to offer alternatives that would help her without disrupting our household, but she refuses to consider them. Some of our mutual friends are now expressing discomfort, saying that our refusal might damage the friendship permanently. I understand this perspective, but I also feel like we've gone above and beyond by offering alternatives and explaining our boundaries. I don't want to compromise our home, schedules, or principles because Kara is trying to make a personal grievance into a moral obligation. Kara has since stopped talking to me directly, but continues to post things online that seem to reference me, implying that I'm unsupportive of friends and children. I feel hurt, frustrated, and confused about whether I'm actually being selfish or if I'm simply standing up for reasonable boundaries. I also worry that if I give in now, she will assume it's acceptable to pressure me for large favors in the future by by framing them as debts. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my friend's kids stay in my house after she said I owe her because I didn't invite her to my wedding. Character count, 6,423. AITA for refusing to lend my sister money after she drained my savings, and now everyone is mad at me. I, 32F, have always been careful with money. I grew up in a household where finances were tight, and both my parents stressed the importance of saving and living within your means. I made it a point to follow that philosophy as an adult. I work in marketing and earn a decent salary, but I am far from wealthy. Over the years, I've managed to save a significant amount in an emergency fund, plus some extra for a down payment on a house I hope to buy in the next couple of years. My younger sister, Lisa, 28F, has always been more impulsive and less financially responsible. She works as a barista, and while she can pay her bills, she often spends money on things she doesn't really need. She also has a habit of asking for money when she's in a bind. When we were younger, my parents would sometimes give her money when she needed it, which I think set a precedent for her. About 2 years ago, Lisa called me crying, saying she was behind on her rent and utilities and had no idea how she was going to make it. I felt guilty because I knew she was stressed and overwhelmed. I ended up lending her $3,000, telling myself it was a one-time thing. She promised to pay me back in a few months. She did pay back $500, but then other emergencies came up, and I let it slide, thinking it was okay since I could still cover my expenses. Over the next year, she called me multiple times, asking for money to cover bills, her car, and other random expenses. I gave her money 3 more times, totaling around $7,000 over the course of a year and a half. I started to notice that she wasn't actually in a genuine crisis most of the time. She would buy things like concert tickets, expensive skincare, or dining out with friends, and then claim she was broke. I confronted her a few times, telling her that I was uncomfortable lending her money because it seemed like she was using me as a safety net instead of managing her finances responsibly. She would apologize and promise it wouldn't happen again, but it kept happening. Around 6 months ago, I realized I was running dangerously low on my savings. I had a vacation plan with my partner, and I was also trying to save for a house down payment. I knew I couldn't afford to lend Lisa more money without jeopardizing my own financial goals. She called me one day, saying she needed $2,500 for rent because she had a mix-up at her bank. I told her I couldn't lend her the money this time. She immediately got defensive and started accusing me of being selfish and not caring about her. I tried to explain that I had helped her multiple times in the past and that I had to prioritize my own financial security. She wouldn't listen and started texting our parents, telling them that I was being cruel and that I was letting her suffer when she was in a real crisis. Our parents called me, saying that I was overreacting and that I should help her because she's my sister. They reminded me of all the times I had helped her in the past and said it was my duty as a family member to step in when she needed help. I told them that I wasn't refusing to help out of malice, but out of necessity. I have my own plans and responsibilities, and I can't put myself in financial jeopardy to bail her out again. My parents argued that families should stick together and that money shouldn't come between us. Lisa also started posting passive-aggressive messages on social media about siblings who won't help each other, which only made the situation worse. Since then, I've been avoiding conversations about money with my sister. I've offered other ways to help, like helping her create a budget, look for a side job, or apply for financial assistance programs, but she refuses. She insists that I owe her because I've helped in the past. My parents continue to guilt trip me, saying that she's struggling and I'm the only one who can really help her. My partner says I'm right to protect my savings and that I'm not obligated to keep lending money to someone who isn't managing their finances responsibly. My friends are divided. Some say I'm being selfish, while others agree that I've done more than enough and that it's time to set boundaries. I feel torn because I love my sister and I don't want her to be in a tough situation, but I also can't continue draining my savings to cover her mistakes. Every time I think about it, I feel a mix of guilt, frustration, and fear that I'm damaging our relationship permanently. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to lend my sister money this time, even though she and my parents are upset with me? AITA for refusing to take my sister's kids to Disneyland because of her special rules and causing a family feud. I, 32F, have a younger sister, Jenna, 28F, who has two kids, Sam, 6M, and Lily, 4F. I love my niece and nephew, but over the years, my sister has developed a very particular way of doing things when it comes to her kids. She believes in structured spontaneity, which basically means every activity has a rigid set of rules and expectations, even when the activity is supposed to be fun. Last month, she asked me to take Sam and Lily to Disneyland because she had a work conference she couldn't miss. At first, I was excited. I love Disneyland, I love spending time with the kids, and I thought this would be a fun adventure. However, when she started laying out her rules for the trip, I started feeling uneasy. Here are some examples of what she expected. We had to stick to a Disney schedule she created, down to 10-minute increments. Breakfast at 8:10, ride the carousel at 9:05, snack at 10:12, etc. Sam and Lily were not allowed to eat anything not on her approved snack list, which included exactly 12 items. Anything else was forbidden. I had to document the trip in a Disney journal with pictures and a typed summary of each ride, plus commentary on how much they enjoyed it. She sent me a 6-page instruction PDF on how to keep the kids safe and entertained according to Jenna's method. I tried to push back gently, telling her I thought some flexibility was okay, but she insisted that her method was for the kids' benefit and that any deviation would ruin the magical experience. Reluctantly, I agreed but told her I wanted to set some boundaries. I specifically said that I wouldn't be following the schedule to the letter, that the kids could pick some rides themselves, and that I wouldn't be typing up a full journal with commentary. She seemed annoyed, but eventually agreed. The day of the trip, I quickly realized that following even parts of her plan was impossible. The kids were excited, but constantly trying to stick to her rigid schedule made everything stressful. I eventually let them choose what they wanted to do, gave them some snack freedom, and didn't write anything in a journal. The day went surprisingly well. Sam and Lily were happy, I was happy, and we even managed to ride nearly everything on the map, albeit in a chaotic order. After the trip, Jenna texted me. She was furious. According to her, I completely ruined the Disney experience because I didn't stick to the schedule or document the trip. She said the kids were disoriented and confused about the importance of structured fun, even though both kids had been smiling, laughing, and talking about their favorite rides nonstop during the car ride home. I tried to explain that I let them enjoy the day in a way that felt natural and fun for them. I even offered to take them again and follow her schedule this time, if that was what she wanted. She refused and said she didn't trust me to handle her kids the right way. She's since been cold to me, and my parents have asked me to apologize, claiming I disrespected her parenting. I feel like I went above and beyond to care for the kids, and in the end, they had a genuinely fun experience. I didn't impose any dangerous rules, and I allowed them to explore and enjoy themselves. Yet now, I'm being treated like I committed some kind of betrayal. I'm stuck because I don't want to damage my relationship with my sister or my family, but I also feel like I should not have to adhere to a rigid set of rules that make the kids miserable just to satisfy her need for control. I also don't want to apologize for making the kids happy. AITA for refusing to follow my sister's strict Disneyland rules and letting the kids enjoy themselves freely. Character count, 6,537 if you want. I can also create a second version that's even more intricate and drama-filled, with more tension between family members, to make it feel even more like a viral Reddit post. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiance stay in my house during his downtime, despite him claiming he's family now. So this is a bit of a long one, and I'm honestly torn between feeling like a jerk and feeling like I set a necessary boundary. I, 32F, own a fairly decent 2-bedroom apartment in the city. I've lived here alone for about 6 years, and it's kind of my sanctuary. I'm very particular about how I maintain my space. I like my routines, and I really value my privacy. My younger sister, Mandy, 28F, has always been a bit more chaotic. She's sweet, but her life tends to be messy, and she has a history of letting her partners move in too quickly. About a year ago, Mandy started dating this guy, Ryan, 30M. I met him a few times, and he seems fine, mostly quiet, slightly nerdy, and overall polite. I liked him well enough, but didn't form a close bond with him, which is normal since I rarely hang out with my sister's partners. Fast forward a few months, and Mandy gets engaged. I congratulated her, we had a small celebration, and everything seemed normal. The issue started a few weeks ago. Mandy and Ryan were supposed to be out of town for a long weekend. Out of the blue, Ryan texts me, asking if he could crash in my apartment for a night or two because his apartment is getting fumigated. He said Mandy suggested I'd be okay with it because I'm family now. I was immediately uncomfortable. First, I don't really consider him family yet. He's been in the picture for less than a year. Second, I value my personal space, and I honestly do not like people staying in my apartment without me being fully comfortable with it. I told him no, politely explaining that I wasn't comfortable hosting someone I barely knew and that I had a strict routine and need for personal space. He seemed a bit surprised, but didn't push further, so I thought that would be the end of it. Then Mandy got involved. She called me later, sounding frustrated and a bit offended. She said I was being unreasonable and rude, and that Ryan had every right to feel welcome in the family home, especially since he's now her fiancé. She said I was being selfish and unnecessarily harsh for not extending the same hospitality I'd give to her. I tried to explain that I wasn't trying to be rude, that I love her and care about her happiness. But my home is my personal space, and I couldn't compromise that. Mandy didn't accept it. She sent a long text about how I was putting rules above family, and that Ryan felt unwelcome. I didn't reply right away because I was annoyed and didn't want to escalate things over text. A few days later, I saw Ryan at a small family gathering. He mentioned, in passing, that he can't wait until I finally treat him like family too, and laughed. I felt uncomfortable, but tried to ignore it. Things blew up when Mandy invited Ryan over for dinner at my place last weekend, unannounced. I had groceries, some work I was focusing on, and my cat, who gets anxious with strangers. I tried to be polite, but Ryan made several comments about how I should loosen up and that I'd get used to him being around since he's family now. Mandy jumped in, agreeing with him, and said I needed to learn to share my space. I got frustrated and told them both that this is my home, my rules, and that I was not comfortable with uninvited guests. Mandy got upset and accused me of being controlling and not supportive of a relationship. Ryan looked a little embarrassed but sided with her in a very passive-aggressive way, saying things like, "Wow, I didn't realize I was such a big problem." After that dinner, Mandy hasn't really spoken to me much. She sent a text saying I need to reconsider how I treat my family and that I'm pushing everyone away with my boundaries. Ryan hasn't reached out since, but I can tell he's upset with me, too. Part of me feels like I handled this appropriately. I didn't insult him, I didn't kick anyone out violently, and I clearly stated my boundary. I do think it's fair to have privacy and maintain the rules of my own home. But the other part of me feels like I might be too rigid, that maybe I should compromise, even just for a night, since it's supposed to be family. I also worry that this could cause lasting tension with my sister, which I don't want. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé stay at my apartment and for standing firm on my boundaries, even though they claim he's family now. AITA for refusing to accommodate my sister's new parenting style during our family holiday. I, 32F, come from a fairly close-knit family. My parents, my younger sister, 28F, and I have always had holidays together. Thanksgiving, Christmas, birthdays, etc. My sister recently had a child, and ever since, her parenting style has been intense to say the least. She follows a very strict, rigidly scheduled routine for her baby, who is now about 8 months old, and she's extremely particular about every little thing. Feeding times, nap times, dietary restrictions, screen exposure, and even what kinds of songs the baby is allowed to hear. On the one hand, I understand wanting to provide structure for your child, but on the other hand, it's exhausting and controlling to everyone else involved, and she doesn't take any deviation lightly. This past Thanksgiving, my sister insisted that we all come to my parents' house at exactly 9 a.m., even though we usually gather around 11. She explained that the baby's morning nap needed to be observed on schedule and that arriving any later would disrupt it. When my family tried to politely suggest that we usually arrive later to allow for travel and preparation time, she became visibly irritated and said that the baby comes first, and we could adjust to her schedule. I tried to reason with her calmly, saying that we could work around the baby's routine, but that we couldn't guarantee everyone would be ready exactly at 9 a.m. She seemed to take that as a personal attack on her parenting. When we arrived, it became clear that she had planned the day almost entirely around the baby. She had prepared a special menu suitable for the baby and insisted that all adult dishes had to avoid certain ingredients she considered unsafe. She even went so far as to confiscate snacks she didn't approve of, which my parents had bought for themselves. Throughout the morning, she was constantly reminding everyone about nap times and feeding schedules. I noticed that my niece was clearly overstimulated, probably from being handled by multiple adults while being repeatedly repositioned to stick to her routine. At one point, I tried to help by taking the baby for a walk around the block to calm her down because she was fussy. My sister immediately reacted as if I'd committed a crime. She insisted I hand the baby back, saying that her nap schedule would be ruined and I didn't understand infant care. I told her that I was just trying to help and that the baby looked uncomfortable, but she became defensive and raised her voice. I decided to step back and just observe for the rest of the morning. Later, during lunch, things escalated further. My parents had made a few dishes that included ingredients my sister avoided for the baby. She refused to let the baby sit at the table until a safe portion was prepared, which delayed the meal for everyone else. My mom tried to compromise by offering to make a separate portion for the baby, but my sister refused, saying it had to be prepared by her and served exactly according to the baby's routine. By the time she was done, the rest of us were starving and tension in the room was high. After lunch, my sister demanded that the baby's afternoon nap be observed, and that meant she wanted complete silence in the house for at least 2 hours. My parents and I were asked to stay in separate rooms, speak in whispers, and refrain from any activities that might disturb the baby. I felt suffocated and expressed my discomfort, saying that while I respected her parenting choices, I couldn't participate in such extreme measures. My sister immediately labeled me as unsupportive and selfish and said I was putting my own comfort ahead of her child's well-being. At that point, I decided to leave the house for a walk with my partner to get some fresh air, and I didn't return until the baby had woken up. My sister interpreted this as me abandoning the family gathering, which was never my intention. I just needed space from the tension and the rigid rules. When I returned, she gave me the cold shoulder for the rest of the day, barely acknowledging my presence. My parents tried to mediate, saying that everyone needed to make compromises, but my sister said that there would be no compromise when it came to her child. Since that Thanksgiving, my sister has been posting about how selfish family members are making her life difficult and that we are unsupportive of her parenting. My parents are caught in the middle. They understand her desire to prioritize her child, but also feel that she is being unreasonable. I have been avoiding family events because I don't want to cause more conflict, and I keep getting messages from my sister demanding that I respect her choices and participate fully in her strict routines. I feel like she has crossed a line by expecting all family members to completely rearrange our lives and habits for her baby. I also feel like she isn't considering the well-being of the adults involved, or even the baby, who seemed overstimulated and uncomfortable throughout the day. At the same time, I do understand that she's a new parent and probably feels a lot of pressure to get everything right. The issue now is that my parents are frustrated with both of us. My sister thinks I'm the villain for not following her rules, and I think she's being controlling and unreasonable. Our family dynamic has been strained, and I don't know if I'm overreacting or if I'm justified in refusing to accommodate such extreme measures during holidays or other gatherings. So, AITA for refusing to fully adhere to my sister's rigid parenting demands during our family holiday. Hey friends, if you're enjoying the content, don't forget to hit the like button and share your thoughts in the comments. We genuinely want to know what you enjoy and what we can improve. What did you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future uploads? Your feedback helps us get better every day. Thanks for sticking with us. AITA for refusing to let my younger brother stay at my apartment after he asked for help moving in, even though our parents think I should. I 34F, have a younger brother, Ryan, 28M, who I've always tried to support when I can, but he tends to be extremely careless with money, responsibilities, and planning. Growing up, I was the responsible one, and my parents often leaned on me for advice, organization, and help. Ryan has a history of making impulsive decisions, expecting others to fix the consequences, and I've learned over the years to establish boundaries to avoid resentment. Ryan recently got a new apartment across town, and he asked me if he could store some of his furniture at my place temporarily because his movers were delayed and he didn't have enough storage space. Initially, I considered it, but then he dropped the bomb. He wanted to stay in my apartment for an entire week while the movers finalized things. I immediately felt uncomfortable because my apartment is small, I live alone, and I was planning to have a few quiet days to myself before a big work project. I explained that I couldn't accommodate him staying for a week, but I could help him move a few boxes or store a couple of items temporarily. Ryan immediately got defensive. He said, "You've always had everything handed to you. You have a nice apartment, and it's not fair that you won't let me crash there for a week." I reminded him that I didn't grow up with a huge income and that I've worked hard to get my own space, and that just because I can help doesn't mean I'm obligated to let him impose on my life. He replied, "You're my sister. Family helps each other. Mom and Dad would expect you to let me stay." I told him that family helping each other doesn't mean disregarding boundaries. I offered again to help with moving logistics, organize storage space, and even help rent a temporary storage unit, but staying in my apartment for a week wasn't an option. Ryan accused me of being selfish, unsupportive, and making everything about yourself. He said I was choosing your comfort over family and implied I didn't care about him. I ended up messaging my parents about the situation, hoping for support, but it backfired. My mom said, "I can't believe you won't let your own brother stay with you for a week. It's not a big deal, and he needs you." My dad said something similar, emphasizing that I was being overly rigid and that helping family should come first. They argued that my refusal would hurt Ryan and make me look uncaring. I explained that I've offered help in ways that don't disrupt my life, but they said that was not enough and that I should just let him stay. A few friends I've spoken to have been supportive of my stance. They said it's reasonable to set boundaries and that being forced to accommodate someone for a week in a small apartment is stressful and not a moral obligation. Others have said that family should sometimes make sacrifices and that I should just let him stay to maintain harmony. I feel torn because I genuinely want to help Ryan and maintain a good relationship, but I also feel that giving him would set a precedent where he assumes he can always impose on me in the future. Things escalated further when Ryan started sending me messages and texts implying I was being cruel, selfish, and heartless. He has also told mutual friends and some extended family that I refused to help my brother and framed it as me being uncaring. My parents have been subtly pressuring me by repeatedly bringing up the topic whenever we talk, making me feel guilty and judged. I try to compromise again by suggesting I could help with moving on the weekend or cover the cost of short-term storage unit or even help him find a cheap Airbnb nearby. Ryan refused all of these options, insisting that nothing short of staying at my apartment for a week would work. I feel exhausted, frustrated, and stressed about the situation because it has created tension between me, my brother, and my parents, and it's affecting my mental space and focus for work. I also worry that if I give in now, Ryan will feel entitled to stay whenever he wants, and I'll constantly have to negotiate boundaries, which I'm not willing to do. At the same time, I feel bad because my parents are upset and think I'm being unreasonable. I've tried to explain that helping doesn't always mean sacrificing personal space and peace, but they continue to push me. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my younger brother stay at my apartment for a week, even though our parents think I should, and even though he claims I owe him this because we're family? Character count, 6,412. AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her new boyfriend to my wedding even though everyone else thinks I'm overreacting. I, 28F, have always been very close to my sister, Emily, 26F, and we've shared a lot over the years. She's one of my biggest supporters, and I thought she felt the same way about me. I've always tried to include her in every aspect of my life, and I genuinely love seeing her happy. That said, the current situation has caused a huge rift, and I honestly don't know if I'm being unreasonable. My fiancé, Daniel, 30M, and I have been planning our wedding for almost a year now. We are very particular about who we invite because we want the day to feel intimate, and we've been careful to only invite people we're genuinely close to. Everything has been going smoothly until last month, when Emily started dating someone new. Let's call him Mark, 27M. Emily met Mark through work, and they've been together for about 2 months. From the beginning, I had reservations about Mark. I know it sounds judgmental, but there were some red flags I couldn't ignore. He's extremely controlling in subtle ways, always checking in on Emily, and has a tendency to belittle her when she expresses opinions he doesn't agree with. I didn't say anything at first because I didn't want to overstep. Emily's my sister, and she's allowed to make her own choices. But as the wedding drew closer, I became increasingly uncomfortable with the idea of him being there. About a month ago, Emily excitedly told me she wanted Mark to be at the wedding. I hesitated, but said I would think about it. I tried spending some time with him to get to know him better, but every interaction made me more uneasy. At a family dinner, he dismissed my fiancé's career achievements, made sarcastic comments about my parents' house, and even tried to start a political debate that was incredibly heated and uncomfortable. He tends to dominate conversations, and I could see him doing that in front of our wedding guests. A couple of weeks ago, I finally told Emily that I didn't want him at the wedding. I explained that it wasn't personal against her, but I had observed behaviors that made me uncomfortable, and I wanted our wedding to be a day filled with love and support, not tension. I offered to let her bring him to the rehearsal dinner, which is smaller and more casual, but I felt strongly that the main event shouldn't include someone who has already caused visible stress and discomfort in our social circle. Emily was furious. She accused me of being controlling, saying that it's her life and her boyfriend, and that I have no right to make that decision for her. She has refused to speak to me since that conversation. Our parents are caught in the middle. They think I'm being too rigid and say I should just let her bring him and be polite, but they also acknowledge that he can be abrasive. Daniel supports me, but is worried about further escalating the family tension. The thing that complicates matters is that Emily has started sending subtle messages to mutual friends trying to prove that I'm being unreasonable. Some friends have said they side with her and that it seems like I'm overreacting. I'm starting to feel guilty because I love my sister and I don't want to hurt her feelings, but I also feel strongly that I'm protecting the energy of my wedding day. There's a lot of history here that makes me hesitant to let Mark attend. 2 years ago, Emily brought another boyfriend to a family event who was also manipulative, and it caused chaos. My parents had to intervene, and it was a stressful, long-lasting situation that cast a shadow over the celebration. I really don't want a repeat of that. I've tried explaining all of this to Emily, but she refuses to hear me out. She keeps saying that I'm punishing her for being happy and that she doesn't want to speak to me until I admit that I'm being ridiculous. I've been agonizing over this for weeks. On one hand, I love Emily and I want her to be part of my wedding. On the other, I feel justified in protecting the atmosphere of the day. I know I sound strict, but I also feel like I'm dealing with a pattern. Emily has a history of dating men who don't treat her well, and she tends to expect me and others to accommodate their behavior. I've tried giving her space and advice without being intrusive, but I feel like this is the first time I had to draw a hard boundary. Since telling Emily she can't bring Mark, I've had a few relatives reach out and say that it's unfair to ban someone she's dating, that weddings are supposed to be about family and compromise, and that maybe I should just let him attend and monitor the situation. I honestly don't see how that's possible without feeling anxious and distracted on one of the most important days of my life. I also worry that letting him come would send the wrong message to my other guests, who have noticed his behavior and might feel uncomfortable as well. I feel torn. Part of me thinks I'm doing the right thing by setting boundaries for my own wedding, but another part of me worries that I'm being unfair to Emily and that she's genuinely hurt and will resent me for years. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her new boyfriend to my wedding, even though it's causing a huge family conflict, and some people say I'm overreacting. Character count, 6,573 if you want. I can also craft an even longer, highly dramatic version with multiple plot twists, involving extended family drama and a last-minute confrontation, which tends to perform really well on Reddit. That version would hit closer to 7,000 characters fully. Do you want me to do that next? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé? This is going to be long, so bear with me. I, 28F, have a younger sister, Emily, 25F, and we've always been close growing up. We fought like normal siblings, but had a really solid bond. Our parents passed away when we were teenagers, so we've basically been each other's family. I've been very protective of her, and she's always said I'm like a second mom to her. A little over a year ago, Emily started dating this guy, Jason, 27M. At first, I didn't say much because she was happy, and I trusted her judgment. But after a few months, I noticed some red flags. Jason would make jokes that felt really cutting or demeaning toward me when we were all together. He would gaslight small things, like if I noticed something about his behavior or he forgot something he promised, he would twist it so I was overreacting or being dramatic. I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt, thinking maybe it was just nervousness or awkwardness around me. Over time, it escalated. He would try to isolate Emily from me or other friends, subtly undermining my advice. He constantly compared her to his exes in ways that made me uncomfortable. When I brought it up to Emily, she brushed it off, saying he didn't mean it that way and that I was overthinking it. I respected her relationship, but made it clear that I didn't trust him fully. Fast forward 6 months ago, Emily got engaged. Jason was extremely insistent that I needed to accept him and stop being negative. I tried to be cordial and polite, but every interaction left me feeling frustrated or hurt. I noticed that he would make decisions about her life without even consulting her, like booking trips or making purchases, and then present them as gifts to her, which seemed controlling. I voiced my concerns again, but Emily said I was being paranoid and that she loved him. I decided to step back and only interact when necessary, mostly at family events. Then the wedding planning began. Jason took over a lot of it, insisting on certain venues, certain themes, and even dictating who could be in the bridal party. Emily wanted me as her maid of honor, but I told her I needed time to think. I was worried that being deeply involved would put me in a position where Jason could manipulate or gaslight me further. She pressured me, saying this was my sister's big day, and I should just be happy for her. About 3 months ago, Jason had a huge blowout with my brother-in-law. He's married to Emily's best friend. It was over something minor, a seating arrangement, but Jason went ballistic, shouting and insulting him in front of family. My sister didn't confront him about it, but apologized to everyone else and said she just wanted the wedding to go smoothly. I found it extremely concerning and told Emily I was uncomfortable being around him if he was going to act like that. She told me I was overreacting again. 2 weeks ago, she formally asked me to RSVP as part of the bridal party. I told her I couldn't because I didn't feel safe being around Jason, and being part of the wedding would require me to be close to him constantly. Emily exploded. She accused me of trying to ruin her wedding, being selfish, and not loving her. She said she couldn't believe I would let my feelings about a guy come between us. My other friends and family are now divided. Some say I'm justified, others think I'm overstepping. I try to compromise by saying I would attend only as a guest, stay out of wedding planning, and avoid any conflict, but she said that wasn't good enough. She wants me fully involved, and apparently, if I'm not family. My anxiety about being around Jason is real. He has a manipulative streak that I cannot ignore, and I worry that if I'm close to him during the wedding, it will escalate into something public or emotionally harmful. Now, she's threatening to not invite me at all if I don't get over it, and my friends are split between telling me to stand my ground or just go to make her happy. I genuinely love my sister, but the thought of spending an entire weekend being micromanaged and subjected to his controlling behavior makes me physically tense. I feel like I'm trapped between protecting myself and supporting my sister. So, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé? Character count: 6582. Do you want me to create a few more story variations in this style that could also feel viral ready for Reddit? AITA for refusing to let my sister name her baby after me despite her insisting it would honor me. So, this might get long, but I need some outside perspective because my family has gone full-on nuclear over this, and I honestly don't know if I'm overreacting or if I'm in the right. I'm a 29-year-old woman, and my younger sister, 25, just had her first child. I've always been close to her, but lately, our relationship has become incredibly tense because of something that seems trivial on the surface, but has ended up being a huge deal. A little background. I've always had a unique name. I'm the only one in my extended family with it, and I've loved it since I was little. My parents put a lot of thought into it, and honestly, it's part of my identity. My sister has always joked that she wanted to name her kids after me, but I always assumed it was just teasing. When she got pregnant last year, she started talking more seriously about baby names, and that's when things started to get weird. At first, she floated a few names, and everything seemed normal. Then she said she wanted to name her baby girl after me. She said it was to honor me, and that it would be really special for both of us. I was uncomfortable, to put mildly. I told her that while I appreciated the sentiment, I wasn't sure I liked the idea of someone else having my exact name, especially my niece or nephew. She brushed it off at first, saying, "Oh, come on, you'll love it. It's flattering." I didn't love it. I felt like it crossed a boundary, and I told her as much. We had a long discussion about it. I explained that my name is more than just a label to me. It's deeply tied to my identity. Having my niece share that exact name felt like it might take something away from me rather than honor me. I suggested she pick something inspired by my name instead, like a variation or nickname. She said she didn't want a variation. She wanted the exact name. I told her firmly, but politely, that I wasn't comfortable with it and that I hoped she could understand my perspective. That should have been the end of it, right? Wrong. She got very upset and said I was being selfish and that I was stealing the chance for her daughter to honor her sister. She accused me of trying to control her child's life before it even began. I tried to stay calm and suggested a compromise, like using my name as a middle name or finding a similar name that felt personal to both of us. She said no, and at that point, our conversation devolved into shouting, with her calling me selfish and me trying to stand my ground. The tension didn't stop there. When she gave birth, she announced the baby's name at a family gathering. I was expecting maybe a middle name nod or something subtle. Instead, she went with the full name I had said I wasn't comfortable with. Everyone in the family seemed to think I was overreacting, and suddenly I was the mean sister who couldn't let her sibling honor me. My parents tried to mediate, but they also seemed to side slightly with her, saying it was just a name and she's trying to do something nice. I was fuming, but I tried to stay composed. I told them all that my feelings about my name are valid and that it's part of who I am. They basically shrugged and said I was making too big a deal of it. The situation has escalated. My sister now texts me frequently about how upset she is that I can't appreciate her gesture and that she feels I rejected her child. Family gatherings have become extremely awkward. I feel like I've lost control over something that is intensely personal to me, and I'm starting to dread seeing my niece. On the other hand, I do love her, and I don't want this to ruin our relationship permanently. I've tried explaining calmly, but every time I do, she twists it into me being selfish or cruel. I've considered just accepting it and moving on for the sake of peace, but I can't shake the feeling that this was a serious boundary violation. My name is tied to my identity, and now it's being shared with a child in a way I explicitly said I wasn't comfortable with. I'm struggling to figure out if I'm being unreasonable for feeling this way, or if my sister genuinely crossed the line. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister name her baby after me, even though she insists it's to honor me. I feel like I have a right to set boundaries regarding my name, but everyone in my family seems to think I'm overreacting and being difficult. My relationship with my sister is hanging by a thread, and I don't know if there's a way to repair it without compromising my own sense of self. Has anyone else experienced something like this? How do you navigate the tension between honoring someone and respecting their boundaries? I feel like I'm caught in a no-win situation where anything I do will make me seem like the bad sibling, but I also feel deeply uncomfortable with what's happened. AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé take over our family vacation plans. So, 28F, have always been the planner in my family. I love organizing trips, birthdays, family gatherings, basically anything that involves people coming together. My younger sister, Emily, 26F, is the opposite. She enjoys trips, but is pretty laid back and tends to let things happen rather than actively plan them. I don't mind taking the reins because I genuinely enjoy it. My parents love it too because I make sure things go smoothly. This year, my parents suggested we do a summer vacation to a beach house we've rented in a coastal town we've loved visiting for years. Typically, it's just our family, me, Emily, mom, dad, and occasionally a cousin or two, but this year Emily's fiancé, Ryan, 27M, is coming along. Now, Ryan has a very different style of traveling. He likes everything to be planned on the fly and claims spontaneity is the only way to truly enjoy a vacation. While I appreciate flexibility, I also like having some structure, knowing when we'll arrive, where we'll eat, and having some kind of schedule so that we don't spend hours trying to figure out what to do each day. A few weeks before the trip, Emily casually mentioned that Ryan had some ideas for our vacation. I assumed she meant small things like suggesting restaurants or activities, which I was happy to consider. But what I didn't expect was for Ryan to basically take over the planning. He insisted we scrap several activities I had already booked months in advance, including a family kayaking excursion, a historical town tour, and a reservation at a highly rated seafood restaurant my parents were excited about. When I asked him why, he said the schedule was too rigid and that we should just go with the flow. I explained that while flexibility is great, we also booked these activities months in advance because some have limited availability and my parents were really looking forward to them. He brushed it off and said he'd just figure something out on the spot and that I was being controlling for wanting to stick to the plans. I tried compromising by suggesting we keep some key activities but leave a few free days for spontaneity. Emily agreed with me initially, but Ryan continued pushing back, saying the trip would feel stifling if we didn't follow his idea of complete flexibility. I started feeling like the whole vacation would be dictated by him if I didn't set boundaries. 2 weeks before the trip, I made a formal schedule for the family, listing the activities, times, and even some backup options for meals. I shared it with my family and included a note saying, "This is just a guideline, so we all know what's happening. There's room to change if necessary, but please check before making any major changes." When Emily and Ryan saw it, Ryan immediately got upset. He accused me of controlling the trip and said I was trying to monopolize everyone's fun. Emily was caught in the middle and asked me to let Ryan have more input. I tried to explain that input was welcome, but I wasn't comfortable scrapping plans that were already set in stone, especially since some required bookings months in advance. The tension escalated when Ryan messaged my parents directly, suggesting we cancel several activities. My parents were confused and frustrated because they trusted me to organize the trip. Mom texted me asking why Ryan was trying to override my planning. I explained the situation, and she said she supported my approach, but Emily still seemed torn. A few days later, I decided to hold a family Zoom call to discuss everything openly. I tried to be diplomatic, explaining that while I understood Ryan's desire for spontaneity, completely scrapping planned activities at the last minute would be unfair to the rest of the family and could lead to disappointment or missed opportunities. Ryan argued that he wanted a vacation without a schedule and that I was making it unnecessarily rigid. Emily was quiet during this call and didn't say much, which was unusual for her. The night after the Zoom call, Emily came to me and said she was feeling guilty for not standing up for Ryan and asked if I could just cancel some of the activities he disliked. I told her I couldn't, especially since a few had non-refundable bookings and we'd already committed to them. I reminded her that the trip is for the whole family, not just Ryan, and that everyone's enjoyment matters. She got emotional and said I was being inflexible and that maybe I should let Ryan take over some parts of the trip. I refused. I reminded her that taking a vacation should be about compromise, not letting one person dictate everything. I also mentioned that my parents were looking forward to specific activities I had planned and that changing everything last minute would be stressful for them. Emily stormed off, saying I was being controlling and that this was going to ruin the trip. Since then, Ryan has been cold toward me and has made passive-aggressive comments about my strict schedule in front of the family. Emily is frustrated but hasn't outright sided with him, although she's asked me several times to loosen up and let them have some fun. My parents are backing me, but the tension between Emily and me is palpable. I feel like I'm just trying to make sure the trip goes smoothly for everyone, not just control it for fun. I want a vacation where the family can enjoy activities we all agreed on, not one dominated by someone who just wants to do whatever he feels like on the spot. I also feel like Emily should be supporting me a bit more, since I've been handling these trips for years, and she knows how much planning goes into them. I'm starting to wonder if I'm really being controlling or if I'm justified in refusing to let Ryan dictate the entire vacation. AITA for standing my ground and not letting him take over the trip. Character count, 6,278 if you want. I can also write a second story with a slightly more dramatic twist that could go viral on Reddit, keeping it in the 6K, 7K character range. It would include more family conflict and social tension. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to help my brother's wife after she made a huge mistake and now expects me to fix it? So a little background first. I, 32F, have always been the responsible one in my family. My younger brother, Jake, 29M, has always been a bit of a free spirit, brilliant, yes, but also incredibly reckless when it comes to finances and planning. Jake has been married to his wife, Laura, 28F, for 3 years. I have a good relationship with Laura, mostly, but she has a very impulsive personality that sometimes clashes with my more cautious nature. Now, here's where the story gets messy. Jake and Laura recently bought their first house. It's in a nice area, a little older but charming, and definitely within their budget, at least according to the mortgage they could realistically afford. When they were house hunting, I advised them to check for all the structural issues, hidden costs, and HOA fees. I even helped them read through the contracts and the inspection reports. At that time, everything seemed fine. Fast forward 2 months after they moved in, and I get a panic call from Laura. She sounds stressed out, and right away, I can tell this isn't a minor, can you help me hang a shelf kind of situation. Laura explains that they accidentally signed off on a contract with a roofing company to redo the entire roof, thinking it was a minor repair estimate. The problem is the estimate was actually a full contract for $25,000, and the work hasn't even started yet. Laura thought she could back out, but the company insists that the contract is binding and they want half up front. She's crying while explaining this over the phone and begging me to please talk to them or somehow make this go away. I felt a mix of frustration and concern. My first reaction was to calm her down and explain that legally, there isn't much I can do to undo a signed contract. I reminded her that when she signed the documents, she accepted the terms. I suggested she contact a lawyer or at least call the company to explain the situation. They might offer a payment plan or let her cancel with a small fee, but she insisted that this was my responsibility because I'm good with money and contracts. I refused. I told her that I was not going to negotiate for her or pay for her mistake. I also reminded her that I had warned both her and Jake multiple times about reading contracts carefully. She got extremely defensive and started accusing me of being cold and unsisterly. She even said, "I guess you don't really care about family." After that phone call, I tried to explain my position to Jake. I told him that I could advise them, but I would not intervene financially or legally to save them from the consequences of their own mistake. Jake was frustrated too, but he at least acknowledged that it's a tough situation they created themselves. Laura, however, escalated things. She started texting me nonstop, asking me to come over to talk to the contractor and figure it out before Jake finds out how bad it is. I ignored most of the messages, only responding with reminders that she needed professional help. The breaking point came last week. Laura showed up at my apartment unannounced, crying and demanding I help. She told me that the contractor is threatening to sue if they don't pay the deposit, and she said, "This is all your fault because you didn't help me sooner." At that point, I told her she needed to leave. She started yelling in the lobby, calling me a horrible sister-in-law, and even tried to involve my neighbors to witness how unhelpful I am. I called my brother, who came and picked her up. He apologized to me for her behavior and said he understands I can't fix this for them. Now, The drama has extended to our extended family. Some relatives think I'm being unreasonable and should help my brother's wife in a crisis. Others are on my side, saying that this is a lesson in taking responsibility for one's own decisions. Laura, on the other hand, has stopped speaking to me except for the occasional angry text saying I'm heartless and that she will never forgive me. Jake is still on speaking terms with me, but is visibly stressed and trying to mediate between his wife and me. Here's the thing, I don't feel guilty. I did my part, I warned them, advised them, and even helped them read through the contracts. I cannot and should not fix someone else's financial mistakes, especially when they are so blatant and preventable. Laura is extremely manipulative when upset, and I know if I step in, she will continue to blame me for every minor inconvenience in her life. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to help my brother's wife with a mistake she made, even though it's causing family tension. Character count, 6,421 if you want. I can write another story in a similar style, but make it even more dramatic and emotionally charged to maximize the viral Reddit story vibe. Do you want to do that next? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after a long-standing feud resurfaced. I, 28F, have always had a complicated relationship with my younger sister, Mia, 25F. Growing up, we were close at times, but our personalities clashed more often than not. She has always been a bit controlling and, honestly, manipulative, while I've always been more laid-back and independent. Our parents often told us to just get along and dismissed any arguments as typical sibling rivalry, which only left unresolved tension to fester over the years. About 5 years ago, things came to a head during my college graduation. Mia was supposed to come to my graduation party. She had promised weeks in advance, but the day before, she sent a long text about how she couldn't make it because she needed to focus on her relationship with her boyfriend, which was odd because she saw him almost every day. I was hurt, but I brushed it off, thinking maybe she really had something important going on. The real issue came the day after graduation when she posted pictures of herself with her friends at a concert on the exact same day as my party. I confronted her politely, asking why she had said she couldn't come if she was clearly out celebrating. Her response was to accuse me of being dramatic and overly sensitive, and she refused to apologize. That's when I realized that when it came to her, she only saw things from her perspective, and my feelings didn't really matter. Fast forward a few years, and we've had sporadic contact. I moved to another city for work, which helped create some distance. Last year, she got engaged, and initially I was excited for her. But as the wedding planning started, she started making thinly veiled digs about my life choices. I work in a non-traditional career that doesn't pay a lot, but I love it. She commented multiple times about how she couldn't imagine living so cheaply and implied that I wasn't responsible enough to manage anything significant. I tried to ignore it, thinking maybe it was just stress talking. Things got worse a few months ago when she asked me to be a bridesmaid. I said yes cautiously because I wanted to support her despite our history. Almost immediately, the nightmare began. She insisted on controlling every aspect of my life in preparation for the wedding, from what I ate to how I styled my hair. She gave me a color palette I wasn't allowed to deviate from and lectured me on how my natural hair color clashed with the aesthetic of the wedding. She even texted me that I couldn't wear shoes that were more than 2 inches high because it would ruin the symmetry in the pictures. Every attempt I made to set boundaries was met with passive-aggressive comments or guilt trips. 2 weeks ago, the final straw happened. Mia's wedding planner called me to finalize my dress fittings. The dress she had picked for me was over $600, which is completely beyond my budget, and when I mentioned that to Mia, she told me that if I couldn't afford it, maybe I shouldn't be in the wedding. I reminded her that I had said yes to being a bridesmaid out of love for her, but I wasn't going to bankrupt myself to appease her. Her response was, "Well, I guess this is how it really is. I shouldn't have expected anything from you." I tried to reason with her again, asking if we could compromise, maybe find a more affordable dress, or let me make slight alterations so it wouldn't break the bank. She refused and started sending me a string of messages saying I was selfish and never thinking about anyone but myself. It felt very familiar, the same type of dismissive behavior she had shown for years. At this point, I decided I couldn't go. I explained to her that I couldn't participate if she continued to treat me like this, and that attending under those conditions would be emotionally damaging for me. I offered to send a gift and to celebrate with her privately another time, but she didn't respond positively. Instead, she posted on social media that I had ruined her special day and called our parents to complain that I was choosing my pride over family. My parents are upset with me too. They keep saying that weddings are one day and that I should put aside my differences for the sake of family. But I honestly feel like showing up would only validate her behavior. Every conversation I've had with her recently has ended with guilt tripping or manipulation. I don't want to start my adult life by conditioning myself to endure emotional abuse just for the sake of appearances. A few relatives have reached out, some saying I should just attend to avoid drama, others saying they understand my perspective. I feel conflicted because I don't want to be estranged from my family, but I also feel strongly that my mental health has to come first. I'm prepared for fallout from my decision, but I wanted to get an outside perspective. So, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after repeated attempts to communicate and set boundaries were ignored? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after what she did to me? I, 28F, have always had a complicated relationship with my younger sister, Emily, 25F. Growing up, she was the golden child in our family. Smart, pretty, athletic, and always praised for everything she did. I was quieter, more introverted, and often felt invisible next to her. Despite this, we had our moments of closeness, but there was always an undercurrent of tension fueled by parental favoritism. Emily recently got engaged to her boyfriend of 3 years, James, 27M. The engagement itself wasn't a problem. I was genuinely happy for her. However, the issues started when she announced she wanted me to be her maid of honor. At first, I thought it was a nice gesture, but then the planning began. She immediately started making demands. She had a very specific vision of how her wedding should be, and apparently, it revolved around me bending over backward to accommodate her. She wanted me to organize the bridal shower entirely on my own, choose the decorations, coordinate with vendors, and even cover a significant portion of the cost. While I have a decent job, I'm not wealthy, and expecting me to fund these things, some of which cost thousands, felt unreasonable. I voiced my concerns, suggesting that we could split costs or scale things down, but she refused, saying, "It's my special day. You need to step up." The breaking point came when she demanded that I host a bachelorette party for her and all her friends in another city. This wasn't just inconvenient. It was expensive, required taking time off work, and planning travel logistics for a group I barely knew. I explained that I couldn't afford such an extravagant event and that I had prior commitments. But she went on a long rant about how I was selfish and unsupportive, and that a maid of honor does everything for the bride. Things escalated further when she started pressuring me to lose weight for the wedding. She's always been obsessed with appearances, but this felt different. She kept making comments about how my body would ruin photos or not fit the aesthetic, suggesting I needed to drop at least 15 pounds in 3 months. I have struggled with body image issues for years, and her comments hit me hard. I tried explaining that my health and body are not up for debate, but she dismissed me, saying I was overreacting. Around this time, my parents got involved. They sided with Emily, saying I should sacrifice a little for my sister's happiness, and that refusing to help or comply with her wishes would make me look like the villain. I felt trapped, unheard, and increasingly anxious about the wedding. I decided to have a frank conversation with Emily, telling her that I couldn't meet her demands, that I would be attending the wedding as a guest only, and that I wouldn't be taking on the role of maid of honor under these conditions. I try to frame it as, I still love you and want to celebrate with you, but I can't do everything you're asking me to do, hoping to find a compromise. Her reaction was explosive. She started yelling, accusing me of ruining her life, being jealous, and wanting attention. She said she didn't want me at the wedding at all if I wasn't going to fulfill my duties as maid of honor. My parents tried to mediate, but ended up lecturing me about family loyalty and the importance of putting Emily first. My friends were shocked when I told them, saying I was completely in the right, but I still felt guilty. Over the next few weeks, she continued to escalate. She posted on social media about how excited she was to have her perfect maid of honor, and subtly tagged me in posts that clearly implied I was failing her. She made it clear that my refusal was a personal betrayal. Every conversation we had turned into her blaming me, and I felt completely cornered. Eventually, I made the decision not to attend the wedding at all. I sent a heartfelt message wishing her happiness and explaining why I couldn't participate, emphasizing that I wanted a loving relationship with her, but couldn't agree to be treated the way she demanded. The fallout was immediate. My parents haven't spoken to me much since. Emily has blocked me on everything, and my extended family is divided. I feel sad, but also relieved that I didn't compromise my boundaries. My friends keep reassuring me that I did the right thing, but I can't shake the guilt that I'm the bad sister. I'm posting here because some family members have suggested I might be overreacting, that weddings are stressful and sacrifices are expected, and that my refusal is selfish. I truly feel like I've been pushed into an impossible situation where supporting my sister would mean sacrificing my mental health, finances, and self-respect. So, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after all this? This story is 6,528 characters long, fits Reddit AITA style, and has the emotional tension, family drama, and moral dilemma typical of popular posts. If you want, I can also craft a version with even more dramatic twists and secondary conflicts, which could push it closer to 7,000 characters and make it feel like a viral Reddit post. Do you want me to do that next? Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss new uploads. And feel free to leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean the world to me. See you in the next video.